Pets can be loyal companions, but living with them isn't always peaceful, especially when they are wild animals. Follow along. Rick treated his bull like a pet and ignored numerous warnings about the risks of this coexistence. That decision came at a high price. A lonely woman kept wolfdogs in her home and saw them as her perfect companions. She never imagined anything bad could happen, until the day she became a victim of an attack. Abell kept a lion in his house and treated it like a son. He never believed anything could go wrong, but during the cleaning of the cage, he was attacked. Michal believed his lions would never attack him. However, a quiet afternoon turned into tragedy when his father found his body torn apart inside the cage. Cynthia, passionate about tigers, dedicated much of her life to their protection. But on a fateful day, her body was found bloodied near the animal. In late February 2010, in eastern Pennsylvania, Ricky Weinhold kept a bull on his farm. In reality, the farm wasn't his. He only rented a barn in Vernersville, about 60 miles northwest of Philadelphia. Weinhold raised approximately 10 head of cattle on the property. He was deeply attached to the animals and treated them as if they were pets. At 53 years old, Ricky visited the farm every day to feed them, and recently, he had been spending even more time there, eagerly awaiting the birth of a new calf. However, there was one particular animal that raised concerns: a one-ton bull with an unpredictable temperament. One of his friends reported that the bull was known for being aggressive. The farm owners had encouraged Ricky multiple times to sell the animal, but he refused to do so, even after being attacked by the bull the previous year, an incident that left him with several broken ribs. Weinhold chose to keep it. The bull's volatile behavior created unease among everyone who knew about the situation. On Saturday, February 27th, Ricky Weinhold once again went to the farm to take care of his animals. He was alone that day. Sometimes, he had help from a worker or his own son, Dale, but working alone was not unusual for him. That day, Ricky was especially excited to check on the new calf that had recently been born. The newborn was in the same enclosure as the unpredictable bull, but that didn't seem to concern Ricky. Without hesitation, he entered the pen to observe the calf. However, as soon as he stepped inside, he was attacked. The bull struck him with its horns and then trampled him violently. The next day, Sunday, Dale went to the farm looking for his father. Ricky had not been in touch, but Dale never imagined that the lack of communication could be due to something so tragic. When he arrived, he found his father's body in a stall inside the barn, where the newborn calf was being kept. The body already showed signs of having been there for some time. Dale immediately called the police. The county deputy coroner reported that Ricky visited the farm daily and confirmed that all injuries appeared to have been caused by the bull's hooves and head. Authorities ruled the incident an accident. Ricky died from multiple injuries. His family made a special request. Instead of flowers, they asked that contributions be made in his memory to the Humane Society, an organization dedicated to animal protection and welfare. In May 2012, in Silent Township, Pennsylvania, Sandra L. Piovesan, 50, lived alone with her 9 hybrid dogs. This breed, known as a wolf hybrid or wolfdog, is the result of crossing wolves with dogs such as Alaskan Malamutes, German Shepherds, and Siberian Huskies. Although these animals are generally not prone to sudden violent attacks, they require strict and specific training to ensure safe and appropriate behavior. 8 of the dogs lived in a fenced area in the backyard of the property, where Piovesan cared for and fed them daily. The 9th dog, Spirit, lived inside the house with Sandra, along with 2 Rottweilers. In 2010, a friend of Sandra's visited her and ended up being attacked by the dogs. Although he never filed an official complaint, he was concerned about her safety. In fact, he wasn't the only one who feared that something worse might happen. Friends and family also worried that one day the hybrids might escape from the fenced enclosure and attack not only Sandra, but anyone passing nearby. Despite living alone, Sandra maintained regular contact with her daughter, with whom she frequently spoke on the phone. This was the life she had chosen, and it made her happy. On a Monday morning in May 2012, Piovesan failed to show up for an appointment she had scheduled with her daughter. Concerned about her unusual absence, the young woman reached out to an acquaintance, asking them to check if her mother was okay. Upon arriving at Sandra's house, this person found her injured and lifeless body on the ground inside the dog's enclosure. Without delay, they contacted the authorities and informed her daughter of the tragic discovery. According to police reports, Pyovesan was attacked by the 8 hybrids and bled to death inside the fenced backyard. Her injuries were extensive, concentrated on her extremities and the lower part of her torso. Despite the deep sorrow felt by her family, they could not fully understand what had truly happened that day. It was not possible to determine what might have led the hybrids to attack Sandra. There is speculation that she may have tried to break up a fight between the animals, or that one of the Wolfdogs attempted to reassert its dominance. But without witnesses to clarify what happened, the truth will likely remain a mystery. The autopsy performed by Dr. Sirio H. Wecht, however, ruled out speculation that Pyovesan may have suffered a heart attack, a stroke, or any other condition that left her unconscious and vulnerable to the dogs. Wecht stated that the most severe injuries were on her scalp and legs. He also explained that the dogs did not devour her, stopping the attack after some time. According to the doctor, Pyovesan likely died within minutes of the initial attack, and the remaining animals were sent to a shelter. Westmoreland County Humane Officer Elaine Gower revealed that she had previously warned Pyovesan that it was only a matter of time before the unpredictable and dangerous animals turned against her. In February 2004, in Kentucky, United States, Abell kept an African lion in the backyard of his home. In Hardin County, in southeastern Illinois, Abell, 52, lived with the dangerous beast near him and his wife. However, the couple was not afraid. And Kat had bought the animal as a cub, cared for it throughout its life, and had grown accustomed to its presence. In particular, loved it as if it were his own child. Today, keeping lions at home in Hardin County is extremely unlikely and possibly illegal due to state and local laws regulating the ownership of exotic and dangerous animals. However, in 2004, things were different and somewhat easier. Doing so did not seem like such a big issue. The couple named the feline Simba and cared for him as if he were a family member. As required by law, Simba had a large cage and a smaller enclosure to be used during the cleaning of the main cage. Was the one who interacted with the creature the most. He was also responsible for feeding it and cleaning its enclosure. On February 12th, was about to do something that was routine for him, approaching Simba to clean the cage. Kat had gone out, and he was alone. In the larger cage, moved Simba into the smaller enclosure, so he could check if everything was in order with the main one. While the lion was in the smaller cage, the doors between the enclosures were left open. Abell moved Simba alone, but forgot to lock the cage. That was enough for a tragedy to unfold. When Kat returned home, she noticed her husband was missing and saw that Simba was loose, which was highly unusual since he normally remained locked up all the time. Worried about the situation and Abel's disappearance, she grabbed her husband's tranquilizer gun to sedate Simba and safely search for him. However, due to her nervousness, Katty was unable to operate the gun correctly. With no other option, she decided to call the police. When the police arrived, they had no choice but to shoot the animal. It wasn't long before they found Abel's mangled body. The body was taken, and coroner Roger Little stated that the autopsy indicated massive bleeding. Abell bled to death from the bites. He also suffered a neck fracture, which, according to Little, was caused when the lion grabbed his legs with its mouth and threw his body around. One investigator suggested that Abell may have felt overly confident around the lion, a 5-year-old male, due to the fact that the couple had raised him from a cub. The lion, which weighed hundreds of pounds, showed no signs of chemical poisoning or any other abnormality that could have triggered the attack. It was in perfect health. Everything was deemed accidental, attributed to the natural behavior of a wild animal. The departments of zoology and archaeology were authorized to dissect the lion. Scientists from Southern Illinois University Carbondale and forensic pathologist Mark Lee Vaughn from Madisonville, Kentucky, performed the necropsy on the animal, which was donated to the university for research and teaching purposes. In March 2019, in the Czech Republic, Michal Prasek attracted attention for owning 2 lions, which also raised great concern among local residents. In 2016, he had acquired his first lion, but that did not seem to satisfy him. 2 years later, in 2018, he bought a lioness as well. Neighbors speculated that Michal aimed to expand his collection of exotic animals, which is why he bought the female. At 33, Prasek lived with his family in the town of Zekov, located in the eastern part of the country. He kept his large felines confined in makeshift enclosures in his backyard. Despite Michal's unusual habit, his parents seemingly did not show concern about raising these wild animals. In the Czech Republic, it is allowed to keep wild animals at home, but only under strict conditions. A specific license must be obtained, which generally requires the owner to prove that they have adequate knowledge of the species and safe, suitable facilities. Additionally, the designated space must meet specific requirements to ensure the well-being and safety of the animals. Owners must also maintain all required documentation. In Prasek's case, he apparently met almost all of the legal requirements. However, his neighbors disliked the idea of living near lions so much that they reported him several times. Despite this, all attempts for intervention failed. Authorities did not find enough legal grounds to force him to get rid of the animals. Although Michal was fined for illegal breeding, due to the lack of permits for building the enclosures, he still kept the felines. The conflict between him and the authorities reached a standstill when Prasek refused to allow anyone onto his property. Since there were no alternative facilities to relocate the lions and no evidence of abuse, the authorities had no legal means to remove them by force. Still, in 2018, he made headlines when he took his lioness for a walk on a leash. During the walk, a cyclist collided with him on the road. The incident was treated as a traffic accident, and no action regarding the removal of the animals was taken by authorities. The entire situation was heading toward a significant risk, not only for the neighbors but also for him. Prasek refused to acknowledge the instinctive and potentially destructive behavior of the beasts he kept. On March 6, 2019, a Tuesday, Michal's father made a terrible discovery. He found his son's mutilated body inside one of the cages. The enclosure was locked from the inside, and it appeared that Prasek had entered to feed the animals, locking himself in to prevent them from escaping and causing panic. However, he ended up becoming the victim. Although the lion and lioness were usually kept in separate enclosures, at that moment, both were together in just one cage. After witnessing the horrific scene, the father called an ambulance and alerted the police. When emergency responders arrived, they couldn't enter immediately due to the risk of an attack. According to authorities, it was necessary to put down both animals to recover the body. Thus, the lions met the same tragic fate as their owner. Investigators concluded that the lion was responsible for the death. According to information released by news outlets, the lioness was pregnant, which further fueled suspicions that he intended to expand his collection. Police spokeswoman Lenka Javorkova confirmed the deaths to the news agencies. In April 2006, in Pine County, Minnesota, Cynthia Lee Gamble was a woman passionate about wildlife. At 52 years old, she was not only an enthusiast of dangerous animals, but also a nature photographer and founder of an endangered species conservation center. Cynthia kept a collection of tigers, cougars, and other wild cats on her 80-acre property. Her work with these large animals earned her recognition, including media appearances. She even marketed the felines for television productions, and they were used as models for magazines, books, calendars, posters, postcards, and other products. Although her work generated negative speculation from some groups due to the exposure of the animals, Cynthia always operated within the law. She was inspected by the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, which regulates the breeding of wild animals through the APIS. This agency requires breeders to have specific licenses to ensure animal welfare and public safety. The requirements include proper facilities, veterinary care, proven experience, regular inspections, and detailed documentation. Cynthia met all of these requirements and held the necessary licenses to conduct her activities. Despite this, she seemed to have a special interest in tigers. She had kept this species on her property for at least a decade without ever facing any issues with them. On April 7th of the same year, a man who worked at Cynthia's foundation found her bloodied body in an area connected to the tiger's cage, through a small gate that was open. He immediately alerted the police and ambulance. When emergency services arrived on the scene, they had no choice but to euthanize the animal to ensure safety. The animal's body was sent to the University of Minnesota Veterinary Hospital for investigation into the possible causes of the attack. After the investigation, it was discovered that on the fateful day of her death, Cynthia was cleaning the tiger's cage when she accidentally left one of the doors open. The animal escaped, saw her from behind, and quickly seized the opportunity to attack her to death. Tigers are stealthy hunters by nature. They prefer to approach their prey quietly and strike at the moment when they have the greatest chance of success. Approaching from behind reduces the risk of being noticed, significantly increasing the effectiveness of the attack. Attacking from behind also gives the tiger a strategic advantage, preventing any possibility of reaction or defense from the prey. Even in captivity, these felines can display territorial or defensive behaviors. When a human turns their back, even if it's someone familiar, it can trigger an instinctive response related to hunting. Tigers are attracted to sudden or unexpected movements. So when someone turns their back to them, that gesture can be interpreted as an opportunity to act. In zoos and wildlife parks, it is common for caretakers to avoid turning their backs on tigers, even those they know well. Cynthia Lee Gamble made a grave mistake, and it cost her life. All her experience handling wild felines wasn't enough to overcome a slip-up that ultimately proved fatal. She neglected something extremely important, the natural instinct of the animals. Unfortunately, the tiger also met a tragic end. Perhaps she had good intentions in keeping those animals on her property, but in the end, the risks outweighed everything.